Welcome to the SKNIS Week in Review. In this edition, we recap significant activities of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis over the past week. Coming up, St. Kitts and Nevis celebrates 39th anniversary of independence. Government delegation participates in high-level UN meetings. Enhancements to senior care planned, and 2021 housing census coming to an end. Those stories and more are next on this edition of the SKNIS Week in Review for the period September 16 to 22, 2022. Hello and welcome. I'm Ian Richards. We begin with a recap of activities surrounding the 39th anniversary of independence. Friday, September 16, was National Heroes Day. The commemorative activities scheduled for the day were cancelled due to the inclement weather generated by Tropical Storm Fiona. Prime Minister the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew delivered his inaugural National Heroes Day address during a television broadcast. He paid tribute to the 5 outstanding sons of the soil who ascended to the rank of national hero. They are the late Right Excellencies Sir Robert L. Bradshaw, Sir C. A. Paul Southwell, Sir Joseph N. France, Sir Simeon Daniel, and the Right Excellent and the Right Honorable Sir Kennedy A. Simmons.
We must appreciate and be grateful for the legacy that our historical heroes have left for us today. We must never stop remembering their contributions they made in order to make our young people to take pride in the tenacity of our predecessors and be motivated to imitate their accomplishments. We must teach them about our country's past. Our national heroes are men of humble beginnings, shining examples of inspiration for our youth, that no matter what your current circumstances, you have the power and capacity within you to accomplish greatness with the right focus, creative mindset, and willingness to redesign or transform yourself.
In related news, in keeping with the National Honors Act, 19 citizens were recognized for their sterling contribution to national development. The Companion of the Star of Merit was awarded to Eileen Gray for her contribution to education, culture and sports, Dennis Richards for education, arts and culture, Lorraine Brown, Waylon Vaughn, Violet Jones, Mon Lawaude, and Dr. Linton Carty for their contribution to education, Sylvester Charles for education, music, sports, and volunteerism, Maxwell Bass Sr. for music and security services, while Nathan Esdale and Elsie Mills were recognized for their contribution to education and religion. Shirley Kelly was awarded for her contribution to nursing education, Lorna Ava-Henry for culture and the arts, Pastor Lincoln Connor for nation building and youth development, and Clement Juni Liebert for broadcasting. The late Lloyd Lazar and Kenrick Georges were awarded posthumously for their contributions to education and sports and arts and music respectively. Now the Medal of Honor was awarded to Mabel Morton for community service and entrepreneurship, Clive Richardson for music and the arts, and James Mickey Frederick was awarded for performing arts and culture. Congratulations to the deserving awardees. The State Service of Prayer, Praise and Thanksgiving in celebration of the 39th anniversary of independence was held on Sunday at the Antioch Baptist Church. Reverend Adeline Binta Nganella, pastor of the Ebenezer Estridge Moravian Church, shared the sermon. She said that this year's theme for independence, Refocus, Recreate, Redesign, Independence 39, is quite fitting as it causes us to think about reforming the Twin Island Federation.
It's appropriate for the unprecedented times that we find ourselves in. It is a theme that awakens our mind to the fact that God never gives us more than we can bear. It is a theme that when we seek God and listen to God, listen to His voice, we will find a way out of any dilemma, out of any predicament, out of any despair. We can succumb to the reality, or we can decide to reform. We can decide to redesign. We can decide to recreate. We can decide to refocus.
Monday was Independence Day in St. Kitts and Nevis. The familiar sounds of the St. Kitts Nevis Defence Force Band and the belting out of commands by officers to troops on parade returned to the Warner Park Cricket Stadium during the ceremonial Independence Day parade. It was particularly special for many as it marked the first time since 2019 that the parade was held. It was suspended in 2020 and 2021 as authorities sought to control the spread of the deadly COVID-19 disease. Monday's parade also was the first for the new government, headed by Prime Minister Honorable Dr. Terence M. Drew. The new Governor General's deputy, Her Excellency Marcella Liburd, accompanied by Prime Minister Drew, inspected the troops on parade. Captain Carlos Garnett of the SKNDF Coast Guard unit was the parade commander. The weather was perfect for the platoons made up of armed and unarmed units. The armed units comprised soldiers of the St. Kitts Nevis Defence Force, Alpha and Bravo Company, as well as the SKNDF Coast Guard unit. 3 separate platoons representing the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force were next. First were officers from the Special Services Unit, wearing their serge uniforms. They were followed by a platoon of officers from Beat and Patrol and various outstations, and an all-female platoon of police officers. Members from the SKNDF Cadets Corps completed the armed unit section. Represented in the unarmed units were platoons from the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services, His Majesty's Prison, the Customs and Excise Department, St. Christopher Air and Seaport Authority Police, Traffic Wardens, Pathfinders, Girls Brigade, and the Explorers. After the inspection of troops, the men and women in the armed units marched past Her Excellency Liburd in slow time. The unarmed units and the SKNDF band then joined the armed units in a quick-time march past. At the end of the march, the troops gave 3 cheers to the nation. In his Independence Day address, Prime Minister the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew encouraged nationals and residents to come together.
I encourage us all to have that collective mindset to build our country, to mold and empower our youth, to protect and empower our women, to truly live out the philosophy of country above self. Indeed, as our Independence 39 theme states, we must all collectively refocus, recreate, and redesign. When we do that, we realize that St. Kitts and Nevis can be no greater than ourselves. Then we will be able to answer that question and say, yes, we are independent.
A delegation from St. Kitts and Nevis is in New York to participate in the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Prime Minister the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew is the head of the delegation. Accompanying the Prime Minister is the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Congress Maynard, Minister of Public Infrastructure, ICT et al., Honorable Dr. Joyal Clark, Minister of Sustainable Development et al., Ms. Nerisse Dockery, UN Ambassador Designate, Naima Hazel, Permanent Secretary, Office of the Prime Minister, Samuel Berridge, Senior Assistant Secretary in the Regional Integration and Diaspora Unit, Gurdip Bath, Advisor, and Mr. Dylan Edmead, Aide to the Prime Minister. The United Nations General Assembly is held every September at the United Nations headquarters, where world leaders from the United Nations member states meet to debate key issues affecting the world. This year it is being held under the theme, A Watershed Moment, Transformative Solutions to Interlocking Challenges. In other news, positive changes in relation to caring for senior citizens and differently abled persons in St. Kitts and Nevis are expected in the coming weeks and months as a number of changes are rolled out by the ministerial leadership. Honorable Jeffrey Hanley, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister with Portfolio for Social Development, Aging and Disabilities et al., met with the staff in the various departments to applaud them for their hard work, hear their concerns, listen to ideas to improve efficiencies, and to spell out new initiatives and programs. A particular area that will be given attention is expanding home care assistance for persons in need. The Skills Training Empowerment Program, which also falls under the portfolio of Minister Hanley, will be a key partner in this regard.
I told them that I need them to find me 30 home care officers within the program that we are going to train and certify them. And those officers, they are going to be working alongside you as the home care officers. Your role is to nurture them so that at the end of the day, they might be able to become permanent. They might be able to start their own business. Here is where everybody run to, even when they don't need to run to. Some of them can afford, but they find themselves here. We have to try our best to continue to be courteous to them and find ways of sharing the news with them without breaking their hearts. Because this must be a ministry of compassion and empathy. And I will, as the minister, endeavor to do my best to try to make sure that the necessary resources are available.
On Thursday, a press release from the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs strongly condemned all acts of domestic violence, sexual harassment, and abuse. The press release noted the death of an alleged abuser on Saturday, September 17, 2022. It emphatically stated that it remains a priority for the ministry to support victims, survivors, and their families who experience abuse of any kind in the provision of social human services, social protection, and support for the survivors and victims of domestic violence in St. Kitts and Nevis. The ministry recognizes the importance of strong legislation to address the reality of abuses experienced by women, children, and older persons in our communities. The release encouraged persons in need of support regarding situations of domestic violence to telephone the Department of Gender Affairs at 765-5492, the Special Victims Unit at 665-3091, the Legal Aid Clinic at 467-1572, and the National Counseling Center at 465-5000. The 2021 Population and Housing Census is expected to be completed by October 15, 2022, and the general public is encouraged to give their full participation when the enumerators arrive at their doors. Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Sustainable Development, Shirlita Dorr Tyson, spoke about the importance of the census and urged the public to fully participate.
I'm encouraging our citizens to participate in the census as we make this final push to complete the census by the middle of October. In case you're wondering, what are the benefits of the census? Now, the data collected from the census, it will help to create social programs and social services to help to improve the social services that are needed. Sometimes you have services being offered and there's no real need because there's no foundation on which you're going to base the decision. And so this census is going to give us the information that we need. Do we need more people on the path? The census will tell us. Do we need less people on the path? The census will tell us. So this is why we need to complete the census. It also helps to inform good decision making and the planning. So I'm appealing to the general public to please welcome the census enumerators.
That's all for this edition of the SKNAS Week in Review. For more information on these and other stories, visit us at sknis.gov.kn. I'm Ian Richards.